Can you say hard hats, folks? Hard hats, lunch pails, steel-toe boots.
Anything short of a championship this year is a failure. Look at this boomer right here.
You've just got so much talent here.
Somebody said we need to apologize for Jaylen.
Can I quote it, John? What are we apologizing for? What did we say? What did we do?
What's going on, everybody? Garden Report time. We promised we would be back for a second episode this week, and the Celtics, as always, gave us reason to. There's plenty to talk about. We're going to welcome in Khari Thompson from Boston.com. Kill the music of it.
Nice.
Khari Thompson is here, sports reporter, Boston.com, and immersed in the Celtics universe and Celtics culture, and covered the finals and was on board for all of it with all of us, going from city to city, covering the C's on their Banner 18 championship run. And he's here to join us in the conversation. We're going to talk about a bunch of things. We're going to talk about Jaylen Brown. Khari's here because he came at me a little bit, and that's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He came at me a little bit on Twitter.
I wasn't really coming at you like that. Like, I wasn't trying to be antagonistic, John.
Not
but I was just trying to steer it one way. But yeah, we're gonna get to that. But respect for you to have me on the show, because it shows you didn't take it personal.
Nope.
And it's not personal. It's just like, we can disagree. I think honestly, it's gonna make you have a better show.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good to have on. It's good to have other voices. We've got our little insulated group chat with our Garden Report guys, and we go at it all day long. It's always good to invite different people onto the show. We'll also get into Team USA Olympic performance, what we saw out of it, particularly out of the Celtics, who are on the team, and the ones who played, in Jason Tatum and his new haircut and no three-point shooting. I wonder how mad Joe Mazzulla was about last night's performance. And we'll get into Summer League expectations, which we were supposed to do last time. We ran out of time, but we will get to it now. But let's start with the story that's kind of in the news right now. And again, as Khari and I had talked about a little bit on Twitter, there seems to be two conversations going on with Jaylen Brown. There's the matter of deserve. Did he deserve to make a team, the Olympic team? And then his response to it vis-a-vis how it, reflected upon Derrick White, who we should be celebrating Derrick White's, promotion to the team or selection to the team. But instead we're having this conversation, which again has people torn and pulled in different directions. So we'll talk about that. So Khari, you're the first, you're the guest. We'll give you first bite at the apple here. And again, I know kind of where you're coming at it here, but your general vibe towards here with Jaylen is, and again, there's a lot of layers to this. There's not conspiracy, but there's the Nike component and whether or not that factored in, and whether or not there's an actual deserve sort of thing here. But like, where do you kind of land on all of it from the point that Jaylen interjected himself into the conversation with his cryptic emojis or whatever it is that he put up there, and kind of it became part of the dialogue?
All right. So here's where I stand. It's real simple. This guy tweeted like 3 emojis, and all of a sudden he's being disrespectful to Derrick White for getting picked over him for the Olympic team. All of a sudden it's going to have chemistry issues with the Celtics. I think y'all are just taking it way too far. I think Jaylen has the right to be disappointed not picked for this team. I mean, what more does the guy have to do? He won Eastern Conference Finals MVP. He won NBA Finals MVP. And 3 of his teammates get picked ahead of him. A quarter of the team is Celtics, and not one of them is named Jaylen Brown. Make it make sense, John Zannis.
Oh, I'm not. I'll let Bobby make it make sense, because again, you've got a slice of where I'm coming from with it in terms of whether or not deserve. To quote, Unforgiven. Deserve's got nothing to do with it in this particular scenario. It's really more about. I personally believe he had a lot of time to process his response, because it was reported a while ago that Derrick White was going to be the person who, so it wasn't like an emotional response. It was pent up. And I'm not going to go as far as to say calculated, but he definitely wasn't like, what? Like, it's not like it's the beauty pageant and it's her or me, and the disappointment just pours off of you. He knew it was reported Derrick White would replace Kawhi Leonard, and it happened. So he kind of did it anyway. And that's what I was surprised by, was it's your teammate. Like, that's what I don't fully understand. If you and I are buddies and we're both up for a job and you get it and I start telling everybody it's bullshit, I'm kind of saying you're bullshit.
Yeah,
even if I deserved it. That's kind of where I'm coming at it.
Okay, Bobby. Let's hear what you're saying, Bobby. Let's go.
Well, it's helpful that it's White, right? Because obviously everybody's sitting there and they're like, "Oh, Jaylen snub, but White deserve." And so, you're in that position if you're Jaylen, where he probably should have publicly congratulated White before he got into his own whatever it is here with what the process was. But I do think he deserves to be feel a little snubbed here because you're coming off a Finals MVP. You had this dynamic performance in the playoffs. You should be one of the faces of basketball at this point with this kind of achievement. And you're not on this team because let's be real. I know Grant Hill's talking about fit and White can defend and pass and all this stuff. And I do like White's fit on this team, but that's why you have Holiday here. Like, I fully understood that. And I think they went to Holiday before anyone else on this team and were like, we need you on this team. Do they need White?
They said it last night. I mean, they said it on the broadcast again. Like Grant Hill's, they're like, we kind of built around having a guy like him on the team. So they did have that guy. Do you need? It's fair to question whether you need two of them there.
Right. I don't think White's going to play much.
No, but is that
Brown
a factor?
Have played much? Would
is
Brown
that a factor?
have played much? I don't know.
That's the question. I'll ask you, Khari, here. Now, we once again have the concept. We have the question of deserve. Mm-hmm. But this is subjective in the sense that it's team building, right? Like they're trying to build a particular team. So it's very subjective. It's not straight up, look at my stats versus his stats. And so it's not like an all-star game or all NBA, which is like, dude, really? Like there you can make a better case because there's empirical evidence to back whether you had technically a better season by any metrics that you would want to use. And whether you deserved something over someone else, there's always going to be splitting hairs arguments, and there's going to be tough calls and tough omissions. But nobody, if this was an all NBA voting and Derrick White gets in third team over Jaylen Brown, there's not a single person who'd be like, oh, that makes sense. But because you're building a team here and you're trying to achieve something that's basically true to somebody's vision who's building this team. That's what they thought they needed. But what Bobby said is Derrick White might not play a ton. Jrue Holiday is in their plans. Could it factor in that, like, can I bring in a superstar type of guy in here who needs the ball in his hands and play him 7 minutes a game because that's how I see his fit here? Or am I better off just bringing the guy who it really is the role player that I can plug anywhere?
Maybe, but like, I don't know. If I'm the United States of America and I'm trying to win a gold medal, I want the best players. And you're telling me that you're taking an injured Kawhi Leonard, who we knew had a knee injury during the first round, over Jaylen Brown. You're taking Halliburton, who they just dispatched on their way to winning the title, over Jaylen Brown. And then you're taking Jrue and Derrick White over Jaylen Brown. I smell fish.
So
this is where it gets difficult, right?
That's what we'll talk about the conspiracy. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead, Bobby.
So you mentioned the All-NBA team, John, and obviously it's not built like that. It's not about deserved. It's not about your candidacy here. Some of it is fit, obviously, with the way they built this team. And more of it's probably status. And I think Grant even said that, right? That the Durants, the LeBrons, you're not even going to question bringing those guys in because they've earned that. And so those guys just get an automatic bid. I think what you look at here with Jaylen, especially if you are, like Khari said, comparing him to a Halliburton, comparing him to some of the younger guys on this roster. I don't know, even throw Bam in there, I guess. I know you want a third big, but is Bam going to play a ton here? Jaylen should have the status, and it goes back to what Stephen A's talked about, and I know he was continuing it this week. He should have the status that makes him a slam dunk kind of guy for a team like this, regardless of fit, right? But he doesn't. And I know Halliburton paid his dues last summer because he plays in FIBA, and that probably goes into it a little bit too here. I'm not saying this is an easy team to put together. It's 12 guys, right? Kyrie's not here. Paul George isn't here. There's countless snubs you can look at. But given what Jaylen just did, and when it comes to injury replacement, which is what we're talking about here, if Jaylen wanted this, he should have been in front of Derrick White. I've changed on this because I'm a huge White guy. And I like the skill set he brings to the table here. But man, it's Jaylen Brown. Like Jaylen Brown has reached a new level with what he just did this summer.
Yeah, I agree. But yes, we can debate whether or not he deserves it. I'm just saying, my man has the right to free speech, man. Like he can.
Of course
tweet.
he does.
And he's probably.
So you think
pissed.
the Nike thing's a factor?
I'm not even saying the Nike thing's a factor. I'm just saying, like, I don't think it makes him a bad teammate to show any kind of disappointment to what went down when it's clearly fishy. Like, I don't think that makes him a bad teammate at all. And I don't think it's about Derrick. I think
why is it fishy?
Player.
Let me ask you this. So is it fishy because he's so clearly a better overall basketball player than Derrick White? If it was, so that's the thing is like, because right now, here's where we're stuck in a weird place in the conversation. I personally think simply because it's Derrick White, you just bite your lip and say, congrats to my man, Derrick. Very well deserved. Would have loved the chance to be there for my country, but whatever. And that's the high road sort of thing to do.
Sure.
You could do that. You can also do whatever, but simply because it's Derrick White, I think you've got to say, look, man, I'm pissed and I think it's bullshit and I should be over 5 different guys on this team. But if I say something now, it's going to look like I'm taking a dig at Derrick, so I won't. If he had done that, I don't think, like, would we be doing the reverse? If Jaylen Brown deserved to make it and tweeted out into the world, congrats to Derrick White, very deserving, we'd still have the conversation for him. Like, I think he should have made it ahead of him. Nobody would be saying, you know what, if I were Jaylen, I think he should have fucking let them have it and tweeted something angry and tell everybody how bullshit this was. So I don't know why we are justifying it that it happened. I don't think it's ideal. I don't think it's going to split the Celtics or cause a controversy. It just clearly is something that what happens when Derrick White shows up tomorrow to answer questions about this incredible honor of his? And every question is, so Jaylen kind of tweeted that he should have been here and not you. What do you think? And be like, and he's dead stuck. It's kind of like, just stomping on his moment a little bit. And in a perfect world, I think it wasn't the best response. I think we could debate till we're blue in the face whether he deserved to be on the team or not and how many people he deserved to be ahead of. It's the same conversation we have during All-NBA selection. But Booker, this guy, he's better than that. He's more valuable. All of that stuff. And that's totally justified. I just think how he responded puts White in a weird spot.
Yeah, but I'm not putting that on Jaylen. I'm putting that on you, Grant Hill, since you said it was your decision. Like, don't even put Jaylen in that position by making that kind of move. Like, really? Like, are we doing this? Like, I mean, like, come on, dude. Like, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. And, like, it's not personal. Insert player X, Jaylen probably felt that way before White even got picked. He just decided to say something. Because at some point, right is right and wrong is wrong. And Jaylen believes it's wrong, so he said something. So I can't fault him for that.
Yeah, back to
it's not a fault in the sense of like that's what I'm saying is I'm not faulting. Nobody is being prevented from expressing their feelings or opinion. It's not hey, keep it to yourself. I'm saying, would it have been better if it didn't happen? Maybe. Does it create an awkward environment for Derrick White? Also, maybe. That's literally all it is there. And I don't think deserve has anything to do with the response. He has every right to feel it. And he could, I think a lot of people would argue in his favor, whether he voiced his displeasure or not. It's bullshit that Jaylen Brown's not on the team. I don't think he needs to voice his displeasure for people to get up in arms over him not making it. But if you look at the roster, and you pointed out, a quarter of it is Celtics. Now go up and down the roster, okay? In terms of deserve. Booker, All-NBA, Curry, All-NBA, Anthony Davis, Durant, Edwards.
Booker's questionable.
What I'm saying is Embiid would have been All-NBA without injuries. Halliburton, All-NBA. LeBron, All-NBA. Tatum, All-NBA. The only Kawhi Leonard, second team All-NBA. The only players on the team that you can absolutely say from a straight resume perspective on the entire team, and Bam was fringy as well. The only 2 players that you have such an obvious case over are both Celtics. So the only thing that's like objectively bullshit is both Celtics teammates being selected over you, because they're the 2 with the resumes that are far lower than everyone else. And so now it's like, if it's bullshit in an obvious way, not I would take him over Kawhi, I would take him over Booker. people can argue that on both sides, and both will have cases. Those are debatable. It's not debatable whether Brown has a higher standing in the league than Holiday or White in terms of the hierarchy. If you were to rank players 1 to 100, he's clearly higher than those guys by a bit. So if you're pointing to two people on the team who clearly have the least case of being there, it's his two teammates.
My thing, though, John, is that even if it's debatable, right? Like, even if it's close, to me, the tie should go to the winner, right? Like, you should go with the guy who got it done. You should go with the guy who had the better playoffs. You should go with the guy who took home the hardware. And you should go with the guy that's wearing a ring. And when it comes to dudes like Booker and Halliburton, if it's close, man, I think you got to give it to JB, especially if you want to go with numbers and argue that sort of thing. JB had to make some sacrifices this year in terms of the type of talent.
The most of all the team, the most of everybody, I would say. There's no doubt about it. But, but the thing is, like, don't you think people are coming off this season almost across the board? Like, because there's Celtics hate from outside where people, maybe thought the easy path, this, and that. I would say the one thing almost universally agreed upon from everybody outside the Celtics little bubble sphere that we live in, our echo chamber of like everything that didn't go the Celtics way was robbery and a slight and all of that stuff. I would say the only thing almost everybody would agree upon is Jaylen Brown showed his worth this year.
Yeah.
His star shining brighter than everybody's. And Tatum won the title, and he's taking shots for not shooting that well and this and that. And people are wondering whether he's a true alpha superstar, and a lot of other people, and they had an easy path. I think everybody agrees Brown, just like
I don't think you
to
can
have some respect on his name
at all. Yeah.
Like, I don't think you can question it.
He answered every question about his game last year, and again, that isn't the criteria for being on Team USA. And when you reverse engineer it here a little bit, Tatum's a slam dunk, right? No one's questioning Tatum's candidacy. No one's debating that. And why is that? Obviously, he has previous status with this team. He's won a gold medal. I think that's part of it here. I think he's a guy people want to play with on this team. He's part of the club here, essentially. And you look at it and say, to go down the Jaylen's road here, a bona fide Nike guy, the face of Jordan. Like, that has to play some role in it, right? Now, is Nike picking the team? I don't think there's any evidence of that here one way or another. But if you're a bona fide Nike guy, if Luka was an American, obviously, he's one of the faces of Jordan and Tatum and whoever else is in that category here, you're automatically on this team. And so that probably worked against Jaylen to some degree here. Was it an ultimatum by Nike that they said they don't want him being part of this and he can't be here because he's anti-Nike and he's spoken out against it and blah, 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 blah? I don't know. But it certainly would have helped him if he was, all in on that kind of thing, right? Like, everybody on this team has Nike shoes.
Politics in the Olympics, never. No,
it's got. I mean, there were guys who covered the Nike on the original Dream Team because of their affiliations as well. So this wouldn't be the first time that something like this reared its head. People have taped over stuff before. It's not all.
And Hill's answer was kind of ridiculous.
You got to be Team Nike, but I didn't like Hill's answer either. Here's Grant Hill, who if Khari has an issue with anyone more than me, it's Grant Hill, and here he is talking about it. Here he is squinting about it. Eventually he's going to talk. No, we'll try him again in a second. That Amit, that got kicked off the stage. We'll hear from Grant. We'll hear from Grant Hill in a little bit when we get a chance to. There he is.
My career, I wore fila. That was supposed to be a joke. Right. No, look, I mean, we we're proud of our partners, obviously, in USA Basketball, but this is about putting together a team, and I'm glad you kind of brought that up because I think just overall, you have incredible interest from an abundance of talent that we have here in the United States. And I've talked a little bit about when we we've assembled this roster. You can't, you got 12 spots and you have to build a team. And one of the hardest things is leaving people off the roster that I'm a fan of, that I look forward to watching throughout the season, throughout the playoffs. Guys who've been finals MVPs, guys who've been a part of the program, guys who've won gold medals, guys who I respect, admire, and enjoy watching. But the responsibility that I have is to put together a team, and a team that complements each other, a team that fits, a team that will give us the best opportunity for success. And so, whatever theories that might be out there, they're just that. But that's my responsibility, and it's tough. It's tough to have conversations, tell people that they're not on the team. And so I know I talked about that in the past, but I just think that speaks in general. Like I'm trying to win, and I'm trying to put together the right pieces that fit and give us a chance to win.
So I'll ask again, because you said you smell something fishy. Did someone order a code red here on Jaylen Brown? Do you really believe that that's? I believe anything is possible, so I'm not saying no by any means, but do you believe there's a good chance there's something more to this simply than some subjective decision about what I want on this team?
I don't know.
What I believe is going to win, because I don't know.
I'm not going to go there, but what I am going to say in response to what Grant Hill just said is that after what we just watched the Celtics do, not only in the regular season but in the postseason, winning 64 games, going 16-3, you're saying you want to win, right? The Celtics just won the championship and proved they're the best team. Why would you not pick the most consistent Celtic like that helped them win? Like, if you're saying you want to win, how are you saying that there's 12 dudes ahead of the finals MVP that will help you win? Like, forget, I mean, like, you can talk about fit if you want.
But that's whether he's wrong. My question is, like, he might be dead wrong in his assessment, but do you believe he's compromised in any way? Like, that's what I mean, is like, because we keep going back to Jaylen Brown's a freaking finals MVP. How much more of a winner can you get than that? That's not debatable. And whether or not he has a resume that exceeds Derrick White's is also not debatable. And it's also not debatable that he's a better slide-in slot and fit replacing Kawhi Leonard than Derrick White is.
That's the biggest thing, right?
There's a million reasons why it made sense, but do you believe there's something more behind it that's fueling not having him on the team?
Sure.
Whether it's this weird Stephen A bullshit that he's thrown out there,
that guys don't like him.
Like, I mean, I'll throw it up there, because again, it's worth talking about. It's, I can't really read it, but do you all believe me now? He says, I need to reveal my sources. It's obvious. How the hell is this guy and the finals MVP not on there? There's something going on. People don't like this dude for some reason, whether it's the politics, whether it's speaking his mind. Stephen A initially, not intimated, said his source told him that people don't like Brown because he walks around and he acts like he's better than everybody. Like, you think there's something either political or that he has rubbed someone somewhere up high up the ladder the wrong way that's affected whether or not he's getting on the team?
Sure.
Or whether he's getting all NBAs. Like, is there something that's, because that happens. People vote that stuff affects decisions. No question about it. You think voters and media guys and this and that don't have guys who they just think are assholes for some reason and don't vote for them? Of course they do. So you think there's something there?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a level of subjectivity when you're picking a team like this. Like, there's no science that says this is automatically the best team. And so, sure, are there people in the league who don't like Jaylen Brown? I'm sure. Like, nobody's universally liked. Like, and I don't know. I'm not going to point the finger at Nike. JB seems to be doing that. I don't know about that situation, but I will say that, like, yeah, it's obviously a bit of a popularity contest for sure.
Right. Yeah. And if I keep flipping it the opposite way, John, if he was one of the faces of Nike, Nike would have him in. If he was one of the most popular guys in the league, the teammates would want him there. Now, are those necessarily reasons he's not there? No, but you can't rule him out just because if it was the opposite way, he'd automatically be in there for all the reasons we talked about here. So they're all worth bringing up there, and they're all worth assessing. I find the Stephen A thing funny because as much as they've butted heads, and I said this to you earlier, John, they both seem to kind of be saying the same thing, right? Like Brown saying he's snubbed, and Stephen A's like he's getting snubbed from all this stuff because of this, this, and that. And they kind of seem to be talking about the same thing. Maybe Brown's talking more about the corporate political side than the popularity side, which is what Stephen A is talking about here. But the more and more I think about it, again, I'm a big Derrick White guy. I do think he could help this team, and I do think there's a lot of basketball reasons he could fit in here. But the more and more I think about it, it's like, man, a guy of this status and caliber should be a shoo-in on a team like this. And you could throw Khari's name out there, and Khari obviously has some stuff working against him too, and George and some other guys. Like, I get that there's a lot of people in this that are left off this team that could be here. But given the way the last year went here, and I know everyone's saying that White was lined up and he was going to be that backup guy anyway, but you can change that decision based on factors that have happened since. And obviously we saw what happened over the summer. And given that it's Kawhi, you brought that point up, John. It really doesn't make sense. Like, Brown can't defend. Brown can't hit threes off the ball. Brown can't like provide some secondary play. Like, all the things White
Brown isn't healthy.
Yeah.
We've spent our entire lives. We've spent our entire, like the last 8 years saying that, trying to say that Brown is eventually going to evolve into Kawhi Leonard. Like, it's like that was always the model. Like, if he can have an all-around well-rounded game like Kawhi Leonard, like, that's his ceiling. That's who he's going to be. And like, he's kind of there, he doesn't, Kawhi Leonard still, I think, at full health is still one of the greats, but like, there's not debating this year. He's entering a little bit iffy, a little bit injured. He's still a terrific friggin' player. But again, just in terms of the slide in and replace, I don't think it's an argument. I think it's much more sensible and the much better pick to have put Brown in there. Really, the debate came down to him calling bullshit at a time where the two most questionable selections on the team are both Celtics, and one of them just got added to it. And
so I agree with you there.
I
think we've given Tatum a lot of criticism for those kind of answers and those kind of responses in the past when he has slighted teammates, particularly Brown, by not maybe showering him with enough praise or not mentioning him or whatever it is. Like, I do think he kind of almost pulled a Tatum in some ways that we criticized Tatum in the past here with the way he approached us. Now, did he call White? Did he do something behind the scenes there to congratulate him? Like, obviously there's stuff that's not public here that could potentially have happened. But from a public standpoint, he went and tweeted right away about his own status rather than White going in there, which I do agree with you. I don't think that's the best look.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, like, White, and what's going to happen tomorrow, we've seen this, we've done this dance before, is, there's a natural inclination to want to defend these guys, so people will naturally defend them because that's what fans of teams do, and it's fine, and they're fine, and it's not an issue, and you never know if something's an issue because they're not going to tell you it's an issue publicly. So Derrick White's going to come out tomorrow and say every right thing imaginable, and everyone's going to say, see, it's not a big deal. And then we're going to pretend that the debate is resolved, where we don't actually know that it's resolved or not resolved. Deep down inside, White could have been like, that motherfucker, he could have friggin' done, but it doesn't matter. Like I said, is it going to break the team apart? Probably not. It just wasn't, it didn't come off as ideal. Tatum, also tough spot, asked about it today, I believe today, at the Olympics, and gave a very Tatum-y sort of answer. Let me put it. Where is he? His half of Tatum. Ahmed, what's going on with these things? Who is this guy? Where's the rest of them?
Look at that haircut.
Hold on, let me try this again.
I know, clean.
This is terrible. Ahmed, if you can fix it, just pop it up and I'll stop talking about this.
No.
Is it tough not having Jaylen here?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many guys that could,
so many guys.
take that last spot or whatever.
Anybody can be on this team.
Yeah, it is.
It's the most.
I'll give him this one.
I'll
give him this one. You knew it was coming, but
it's the best. How big has Jaylen Brown's leadership been? Yeah, we're all leaders. Like, oh man, just give it to him.
Yeah.
Just give it to him once, man. Give it to him. I don't know.
And talk about playing the game. Tatum plays the game as well as anyone there, and that's how he's going to answer a question like that. And I'll give it to him in this circumstance, because how are you going to weigh the White and Brown thing in one answer? It's tough. So you just kind of blew it off there. But
these guys
think
need
you
a media coach. It's that's what it's always. It doesn't really matter, but it's so easy to give the right answer and end any.
What would you have said there, John?
In there, dude, we're the NBA champions. I think every single member of our team should be here, and it would make us that much better and increase our chances of winning, because that's what we did. So JB, White, Holiday, friggin' give me Al, bring them all here. They all deserve a spot on this team. It's so easy to kind of play every side there. Jaylen's one of the best players in the world. Of course, he has a right to wonder here. Derrick White, also outstanding, a winner. They both deserve to be here. I wish we could have them all. I wish we could have them all here. It's super easy to do. But it's an awkward position, and because he's like, shit. If I say one thing about one guy, is it going to come off as I'm picking a side here? So he just kind of hems and haws a little bit. So who knows? I don't put a ton of stock in the quality of these answers. I think it's actually pretty easy to evade any potential controversy or people reading into stuff or eyeball emojiing anything you said with really, really simple, basic answers. But, Tatum didn't say a ton there.
The only other thing I'll throw in there, Khari, too, is obviously Tatum. He's friends with a lot of the guys on this roster, close friends.
Yeah.
Bam. KD, there's a relationship there. Up and down this roster, I'm sure he even has a relationship with LeBron. Like, Jaylen doesn't go about things in that way, and I think we've loved that about him in the past, too, is he's not buddies with guys across the league. Like, he's looking to compete with them. You remember the Draymond stuff. Tatum's obviously another guy who's been friends with Draymond here. Like, there's more of a social relationship that Tatum has with guys across the league, it feels like, than Brown, who has looked at it from the other way, where it's like, I'm trying to beat these guys. I'm trying to take them down. Like, I'm trying to destroy these guys. That I'm sure doesn't help him here either. Like, it really is the perfect encapsulation of the difference between Tatum and how he's kind of carried himself in his career versus how Brown does here. And does that hurt him here? Again, I don't know, but it might be a factor, because you look at Tatum and Brown and where they are in their careers right now. We've said this throughout the year. This year, more than any show, they're equals here in this thing. Like, Tatum might be a little bit more valuable because of the passing and all that, but in terms of their impact in the playoffs, like, it was neck and neck. Like, those guys were equally as valuable to this run as each other.
And I get that that's how the world works. Like, right, relationships and connections get you things that you might not ordinarily get. But what is this, high school? Like, you know what I mean? Like, Jaylen
that's what this thing's all about.
Like, Jaylen doesn't want to sit at the cool kids table, so we're going to take stuff away from him? Like,
it's the most high school thing ever, John. How many different high schools in this country have guys say, "Oh, I'm not on the team because of this, this, and that," and the coach didn't like me, and I wasn't friends with the best player. We can't hear you, John.
We gotta get.
I'm on the youth sports circuit right now with my kids. the amount of parents who think their kids got jobbed out of shit. It's like, nah, man, your kid's just ordinary. Like, just accept it and move on. Like, most of our kids are. It's fine. Just live with it. Oh, I need better coaching. I'm going to switch soccer clubs and drive 40 miles to practice 3 times. Okay, have fun.
That's how basketball's become in many ways too, right?
I know.
Yeah.
Like, AAU, guys switch teams all the time. High schools, guys aren't. College, look at college now. Guys are transferring every year to a new situation where they're the man, or they're better set up, or there's a better relationship with the coach, or whatever it might be here. So obviously it's translating to the NBA level now too, with the way a lot of these guys come up. And man, this is a little bit of a mess here.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I mean,
agree.
but this stuff.
You got to say though, Jaylen's the only guy who's come out vocally and said, "What the hell? I'm not here because of this, and that."
Let me ask you that. Is Jaylen Brown, like, fine, he deserves maybe ahead of almost anybody else who could have potentially been omitted here. But is he the only person on the planet with a beef? Because right now he's the only one who seems to be vocalizing it and or pointing to a reason behind it beyond subjective basketball analysis, based on whatever they think they need for this team. Right now, and people do this all the time. All-star selections, people don't make it. They voice their displeasure. Of course. It should have been,
And Jaylen has done that toward the all-star selection process.
The All-NBA, so like there's a vibe of like someone out there doesn't like me for some reason. Is it always been justified? I don't think so. I think in this case, I think it's you're making you have to do a lot of dancing to justify not putting him on this team. So I think that this, maybe more so than anywhere else, is a tough one. Everyone else is but in the most cases, they're all kind of jump balls. He just seems to come on the other side of them a lot. Like he was 16th in All-NBA. If you looked up and down that roster, yeah, you can totally point to a guy or two that you think maybe or definitely, but it's close. It was close. And in this case, it's close versus everyone else except for Holiday and White, as we said, who are picked for reasons beyond, their basketball resumes. But yeah, it's happened to him a bit. And, I definitely think he thinks there's reason behind it.
You know who else could have a case? Boston's favorite, Kyrie.
Kyrie's the other, baby. Yeah.
And you don't think there's reasons beyond basketball? Kyrie's not there?
They're 100% for Kyrie. I'm not 100% sure for Jaylen, but I wouldn't be Kyrie for sure. There's definitely a fear of like representing Team USA and some of the things he said in the past. That has to factor in, right?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Seems fishy with him too, man.
It's fishy. That I think they're worried. Like, I don't know what he's going to say or do, and I'd rather just not risk.
Well, he has a shoe issue too here, right? Because he was a former Nike guy, and that's where Brown's issue with Nike originated in many ways, was the Kyrie situation where he stood in line with Kyrie and defended him, and
it was when Phil Knight said. It was exactly that. It was in response to a Phil Knight tweet about that Irving didn't represent the brand, and he's like, "Oh, so now you guys are now all of a sudden Nike cares about morals or ethics or whatever it was."
Yeah,
and so that's the one that's been pointed to as the time he's been critical.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I've asked you guys whether you think it's the reason or not. There may be more to it beyond straight basketball.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah.
Kyrie's a great example, right? Because he was one of the faces of Nike. Absolutely. And if he
Brown
still
just won an SB. Respect.
Oh, yeah.
Best championship
validation. So I guess that's the last thing we should talk about here with Brown, because we've had this conversation a million times. He feels disrespected. He feels slighted in many ways. How does this manifest itself going forward? Because you would think him standing there with the finals MVP trophy, which again, I'm still sitting here 21 days, 24 days, however long it's been later. And like my mouth's still like on the floor that he won that. Cause normally it's just like the guy with the status as the number one face of the team always wins that award outside of like the Iguodala year. Like every single best player on the best team, regardless of the stats or whatever it might be, usually just walks away with that award. And Brown won it pretty convincingly here. So that was a big deal. I still can't believe it happened. But still, even after that, he still feels slighted.
He deserved to win.
This is why I like Joe Mazzulla's message, though, because Joe's always talking about don't play for other people's admiration, like don't go in expecting things to happen. And I think that's just a real healthy way to look at it if you're JT or JB or any of the Celtics, because like at the end of the day, what matters is winning, dude. Like if you win and you have your game in order, stuff is going to fall into place for you. Like Jaylen got paid anyway. Like he might not have the awards, but he's a champion and he's a finals.
He got paid too, right?
Yeah, he's not doing too bad here. So I think Joe's guidance on that is the right one.
Yeah, it's interesting because he really has checked off a lot of the lists of things he might have had an issue with or things he deserved that he wasn't getting, or even just his status. Like I think the way he's looked at after a summer last year where he wore all of the blame for that game 7 and the way it went in that series, it's been the opposite here, as you said, John. Like he has nothing left to prove, it feels like at this point. And still, like, is this just how he operates, John? Like he's gonna try to take every slight and just use it to motivate himself or push himself, or whatever. Like that's some guys do that. I'm just a little like, man, like still he feels slighted.
I just wish Derrick White didn't catch a stray, but I actually like all of this stuff for Jaylen Brown because and we've talked about this in the past, Bobby. I think a big difference between Brown and Tatum is in this mentality where Brown fuels his hate fire and takes him to another level, whereas Tatum gets a little sad and sulky when things aren't going well, and he can get in his own head and he starts to feel sorry for himself or be like, this or that, or the referee stuff, whereas Brown just gets after it. And so like it always takes him to another level. So selfishly, as a Celtics fan, you have to want what's funny is you should never want Jaylen Brown to get another award in your life if you're a Celtics fan, because that will keep raising his level higher and higher and higher because he does use it. He does use it to his advantage. So like, yeah, he's going to come back.
By the way,
he's going to come back pissed still. Yeah, he's still going to come back pissed.
I want Amit to pull that clip. I guess he's on the red carpet talking about this now. But
he is, but we might have some copyright issues with ripping something off of ESPN's broadcast. So we might paraphrase it, or Amit, you can put it up on a quote board as well. Real quick, before we're going to continue on, we can put a bow on the Jaylen Brown conversation. Khari, I'll tell you also, people sometimes are like, shit, how long is this show? And they tap out. If you got to go somewhere, just say, guys, I got to tap out, and you can go. Otherwise, you're welcome to hang as long as you want. We'll shift the conversation off of Brown and talk about a few other things. I want to tell people at home about our sponsors here. Game Time, authorized ticket app. You want to get in on whatever events you want to check out right now, whether it's Red Sox, who again are playing well these days, or a really loaded local concert slate, or wherever it is you reside. Not everybody's here in Massachusetts. Check out Game Time. Definitely the place to go for the hottest deals. One of the great things about the Game Time app, prices go down the closer you get to it. So whatever it is you want to get in on, you can keep just checking, and chances are you might be able to find yourself a deal right before first pitch, or right before the concert begins, or right before tip-off, what have you. You get a special offer. Oh, the thing I love too, the panoramic view from your seats. You can see it here. You click on it, you find out exactly what it's going to look like from your seat. A really great feature, better than anywhere else I've seen. If you download the Game Time app, create an account, use that code CLNS, you get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Once again, download that Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. And we'd be remiss if we didn't mention, of course, Prize Picks, #1 daily fantasy sports app in America, the official daily fantasy partner of the CLNS Media Network. Pick more, pick less. It's that easy. It says it right there. Pick your favorite players. Pick any stat. Pick more or less. 2 to 6 players. You can win up to 100 times your money with Prize Picks right now. WNBA action is smoking. You want to get involved with that. There's also baseball, and you can check it out. And obviously, once football season begins, everybody's going to be off and running with it. So download. Oh, sorry, I got to switch that. Download that Prize Picks app right now. The promo code is CLNS. Deposit match up to $100. That's right. You put in 100, you get back 100. It's a super easy to use app, very intuitive, and a lot of fun if you want to play along. So get in on the action today. Once again, that code is CLNS. When you download the app, deposit match up to $100. Guys, any final thoughts on the Jaylen Brown thing? And again, I do want to clarify, Khari, I do not think that this is a massive controversy. I think it's we could have done better here. I do think the actual conversation is on whether Brown deserved it, but I think that conversation could have been had prior to White's selection. I just think it magnified it because, well, you had another you left him off the first time. You had a shot to do right and you didn't. I am curious here. And again, I don't know how it's going to land. I don't think Derrick White deep down believes Jaylen Brown's taking a shot at him. I just do think it's a little awkward and maybe not the most elegant, response to it simply because White was put out there. My question is this. Let's say one more spot opens up tomorrow. And Brown, and somehow it doesn't go to Brown.
Hurt.
What happens, right? What happens there? Like, do you think he's a slam dunk for the next one, or do you think
you know how it would go, John?
His reaction now could hurt him.
He's gonna say no if they try to give it to him now. I think
do
that's
wonder
what's
though.
gonna happen.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's exactly how it'll go. And maybe there'll be some sort of disagreement about how it laid out. But after this, I don't think there'll be in any rush to play for them. I don't even know how much he really wanted to pay for the team necessarily. Again, it's a status
I think he did.
thing.
I think it's
You
both.
think you want to go to Paris and play?
What do you think, Khari?
Yeah, I think he wanted to play. Like, he talked before the season and said that he wanted to play.
Oh, yeah,
and
that's right. He did. That's a good point. Yeah.
I have it right here, Bobby. Ready?
Day.
Proof.
Yeah.
Here it is.
That's a great thing. Playing in USA basketball, I think, is no greater honor. I think playing for your country, there's definitely, coming from my community, coming from where I come from, coming from where majority of our demographic come from, having the opportunity to represent that, your community, your outer community and the people that support you. I think that is a part of it as well. Being able to participate would be great.
Oh, there you go.
Look at that. Coming from a single parent household in Georgia, he makes it as a top 3 pick in the NBA draft, accomplishes all of this, and he can't play for his country. Come on now. I'd be pissed if I was him.
Oh, you're muted, John.
I think Jaylen Brown laid the groundwork for a lot of things he wanted to see happen this year, early in the year, because he just wanted to let it be known. Like, I play defense now. Start thinking about me for all defensive. I want to play for the Olympics, so don't forget about me when you go picking all those guys in the club that you necessarily think about. I think he put it out there, because he wants, and I think part of the reason he did it is he knew this year with this super team that assembled, he might take a step back statistically, which he did, because he had no choice, because he had to share the ball a little bit more and he wasn't, counted on as much. So his scoring took a dip. And honestly, that's probably the exact reason why a player who played better all around basketball across the board by far this year than he did the year before, which was the best year of his career. And he scored 27 points a game last year, putting up 20 shots a game, and makes second team all NBA. And this year is clearly an all-around better and more impactful player and does not. So he was kind of putting out there early, like, my stats might slip, but you got to pay attention to what's going on here. And he kind of backed up a lot of what he said he was going to do at the beginning of the year. His defense, his on-ball defense has always been great, but his team defense, he wasn't getting lost in rotations or over-helping or falling asleep on back doors with the same regularity that he might have done in the past where he'd have some lapses. His on-ball defense was legitimately lights out and won them games and maybe even won them a title. And his decision-making was 100 times better than it's been in years past. Didn't force the issue, did almost everything right. So he did make good on a lot of his promises. I think he just wanted everyone to know, like, I'm real. Like, when it comes to selection time, I want you to think about all this stuff. So he did put it out there, and he put it out there early.
And he wanted it. Think about how many of these dudes get picked and don't even want to play. And Jaylen wants to play, and they're not even letting him play.
I know. He wanted it. I do feel bad because it's hard, man. It's every 4 years, and it's like a really tough, tight process. And you never know.
And he wasn't at the last one, right?
Yeah, so, you never know where you're at the next time through. And that's gonna bug him some too, Khari. Don't you think? Like, there's always been the Tatum is 1 and Brown is 2. Call it 1 and 1A. This is that first year, particularly in the playoffs, where it's like we're much closer than people think here.
There was a long stretch of time going right through the end of last year where you're like, all right, it's Tatum and Brown. Like, Tatum's the tone setter. He's just a little bit more skilled. He's
It's
and
gotta
so I
bug
think
him some, right? That Tatum is the default. I don't even have to think about it. Set it and forget it. First team all the NBA, obvious selection to the Olympics, and without any thought going into it. And Brown is omitted outright. And that's got to be a little bit tough, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm sure in Jaylen's mind, he's like, I'm right there with that dude. Like, I'm sure if you asked Jaylen and he gave you the real, like, if you had a couple drinks with Jaylen, you'd be like, I'm right there with Tatum. Like, if you got some,
he has said as such, right? The quote I keep going back to is when I'd ask him about like Tatum getting the double teams, and he'd be like, I get double teamed too. Like I see those kind of coverages too. Like, you get a little bit of that, and that's just a little bit of competitiveness, I think. I don't think any of this manifests itself, as John said earlier in the show, in issues or some of the stuff we've talked about in the past with the team dynamic here. Because honestly, if you're Jaylen, you could come out and pick anybody across the board on that team. Just like you said, Tatum should have done with his answer there, John. Brown honestly should have came out and said, I should be there over Embiid. And then everyone would have loved it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no doubt. We do have, I believe, at least the quote. That's all he said. He showed up. He was there. Asked about the USA snub. I got no comment. That's it. That's all he said. So we're not going to get anything for it tonight. But Jaylen Brown wins an ESPY. So he got something. He got something here. Didn't get the Olympics. Got an ESPY. So I don't know. Not even consolation. Let's wrap up the Jaylen. Let's wrap it up here and move on. Just a couple other nuggets we wanted to hit on. Team USA without Jaylen Brown, without Kawhi Leonard, without Derrick White, who had yet to join the team, played their first game last night against Canada, who most people think probably has the at least the most NBA. I mean, they have the most NBA talent on their roster, and probably one of the teams that could challenge them. They beat them last year at the Worlds. Granted, that team was maybe kind of a overall third sort of string team that the USA cobbled together, and nowhere near this one. Your thoughts on watching them play? They were rusty. They turned it over. They didn't shoot the ball well, and they still kind of cruised to an easy victory. What you saw in Team USA, what you saw from Tatum, who all he did was drive to the basket, make quick decisions, no pull-up contested twos.
Yeah, I loved it. I didn't see him take a jump shot all night. All he did was just put his head down and go to the rim again, and again. It's the extreme version, right? Tatum's not going to come out and shoot 0 threes in NBA games, nor should he. But it does go back to the conversation we had the other night, John, where it's like, if he played with a level of physicality that consistently, if that was his role in the offense, and it's great to be able to play one-on-one, right? There's not as much attention on him in this kind of setting, but you'd get this kind of efficiency from him because he's just that dynamic around the basket. I love this. It's going to be fun to watch. I think he's probably going to have one of the larger impacts on this team. It's interesting he comes off the bench, Khari, right? I think that was a little unexpected in favor of Holiday. I don't know if that's actually going to last into the real games, but his role looked awesome out there, especially he's defending centers. He gets that steal on Olynyk. The transition game's real strong there, and there's just no settling. That last play of the half, Shea, like maybe he steps back there on the Celtics and takes that three over him, but he just shakes him and goes right by him and finishes. He had a strong transition finish. This is one of my favorite Tatum games I've watched in a while here, just because of how aggressive he was.
And that's got to go matchup by matchup, right, Bobby? I mean, like, I don't think you permanently pencil Drew in as a starter on that team. I think that,
no,
if you have a game where you're like, okay, having Drew's defense and versatility in there can give us a serious advantage versus, you face a team where you might need a little more offense. I think you can go to some other weapons.
I think he starts. I think Holiday starts.
Really? Oh, he's riding it out.
Well, I think he does. One, there's deference to the olds, as you can see in that first unit, and I think Durant slides in ahead of Booker in that starting lineup, and they might keep that second unit intact.
Holiday looked pretty good too.
That was youth and energy, but I think the reason Holiday continues to start there is playing alongside Curry. You want to be able to have somebody who can hold up defensively. So Curry's the only one you might have to hide out there. So I think if Curry is starting in that starting backcourt, I wouldn't be stunned if Holiday starts along with him. And that's going to be your balance there. That second unit stands alone, especially the front court. That was unbelievable. That friggin' defensive front court that you had.
Davis and Bam.
Bam, Anthony Davis and Tatum. Oh my God. That is really tough, man.
And that's where the game really went sideways for Canada.
And those guys got out there and it got so difficult to score. And then you had Edwards' energy and just the overall athleticism of that second unit. I wouldn't be stunned if that's how they move that. I do think you could see Durant sliding in and Booker jumping into that second unit. Then you're going to be left with whatever you're left with, which is kind of White, picking up the pieces. I go back to the Jaylen Brown conversation. I do wonder, would he have been comfortable in that role of 6 minutes a game, 5 minutes a game, 7 minutes a game? I'm not sure, if that is the role he was going to play. You can argue no, make Booker play 6 minutes a game and have Jaylen go in there with that second unit. But if that's how they have it in their mind's eye, you're bringing a guy in late. He's not coming in to play over people. You think he's coming in to kind of go to the back of the rotation and wait for their number to be called.
Yeah, I guess that's the tough part about it. And White maybe accepts that a little bit more than Brown. I guess that's one of the arguments you can make if you're Hill here.
Oh, and Halliburton was in the second unit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Brown should be out there over Halliburton, as Khari said at the top of the show, in this kind of lineup, right? Because Halliburton didn't have the ball in his hands at the time. I know he led the team in assists last night, so he's got that passing and ball handling element. I guess they want.
He's the obvious point guard of that second unit. I don't know who's running the show there if you don't have Halliburton running with them at that point, right? That's also where White comes into play there, because that's another person who would end up being a primary ball handler if he's out there at times.
Yeah, and then Booker would probably slide back in there with KD back in the mix there, because KD will probably start if he's healthy. So it'd be KD in your scenario, John, Curry, Holiday, LeBron, and Embiid. Man, Embiid kind of stunk, huh? What was up with that?
He looked bad.
He fouled out in the third quarter. He got stopped twice by who's the guy on Canada there? The former Celtic, Powell.
Powell.
Yeah,
Powell stopped him twice to start the game. I don't know what that was all about. Embiid out there. And then Davis and Bam, as you said, were great. So I don't know. It's how it usually is for this team, right? When they have the full mix, it's a little sloppy. They're looking like they're having trouble playing together early, and then it's like, oh crap, they have 10 deep of all-stars, and the other team, as good as they might be, doesn't have that kind of bench. So that's where it's going to go sideways for some of these other teams when they go up against the U.S. I'm interested in what Serbia can do. They probably don't have the depth. France is interesting, right? Wembanyama is going to show them something, but do they have the depth? I don't know.
Yeah, Wemby.
What would you guys give to have last night's officials referee the next Celtics Sixers game with Embiid? That would be terrific. No deference to his bullshit at all. He's had 5 fouls in 12 minutes and a technical. It's unbelievable.
That's the thing. Every 4 years, you get that FIBA officiating, and everyone's like, "Whoa, this is different." The travels, everyone's traveling, and it's getting called. Yeah, it's different. But I love this. I love this thing. Every couple of years, I've come to love the World Cup too here. I'm interested to see if the world can compete, because, like you said, John, Canada had a shot there with that mix. And they really hit a wall after the first quarter.
Yeah, that was tough. I can't see. I mean, again, can't see this.
Where's O'Shea? They needed O'Shea.
Yeah,
he's working on his game. He's
working on his free agency.
Yeah. How does that go? What do you do to work on free agency? a lot of YouTube videos.
Call my agent and be like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah. So Team USA, I love this offseason. I really do, because again, I've said this a million times. As someone who, and again, like you do, Khari, and we were talking about it before we got on the air here, we cover all sports, not just one sport, even if we have concentrations, and that filling that gap and that void between the end of winter sports season or winter sports team relevance, however long your team is in the conversation. The Celtics have never gotten out of the conversation, which is beautiful. And with so many of them as part of the Olympic team moving on, there's just so much to talk about. In addition to this, it's our first, I'm not going to say, it's the first Vegas Summer League to be excited about in a little bit, simply because you have a first round draft pick, which you don't always have. And you have a second round draft pick. You haven't had one under Stevens, and you have a second round draft pick from a year ago who might be counted upon to be a fixture on the roster this year. And actually, I'm not going to say necessarily play or contribute, but you never know when a leap is made. And this is a team that hasn't had a youth infusion in a bit, right? Peyton Pritchard's the last drafted player to really be doing anything for this team.
And he was old.
And, yeah. Yeah. So, but it's not just that. I mean, again, they drafted older players that, their first 2 picks are both 23. Was it? Sharman is like 18 months younger than Tatum or something. Yeah. He's going to turn 24, but more meaning like you need new blood, right? And they have some here. So again, we're entering this. Who do you want to see here? Obviously there's the rookie here, but like, who are you most excited for? And what are you hoping to get out of this? Bobby Manning will be covering the team here, so we'll get Bobby's thoughts, but Khari, what are you like super interested in seeing here? Is it Sharman?
Yeah, I definitely want to see Sharman because, the Celtics take more threes than anybody, and you can add a pretty good shooter to the mix. Nice little lefty switch-up option. I think that would be real fun to see. Obviously, you want to see both Jordan and Nimi for sure. I think Nimi's real interesting as a prospect just because of his size and athleticism. And then you want to see if J.D. Davison can make the leap because his situation is starting to get kind of, dicey. Like he was a free agent and they brought him back, but he's been in the system for a couple of years now, and it's kind of getting to the point where's he gonna play?
Who are you bullish on though? Put it this way, let's go into bold prediction mode. Summer League is always, you get Summer League All-Stars, people play well, people don't play well. It's not necessarily representative on whether or not you're going to be able to do anything that year or in the future. But it sure would be nice, right? If it happened. This is a tough rotation to crack. They're running back a championship team that has a pretty set 1 through 9 rotation. It's hard to do something that's going to get you in there. I mean, is this all okay? Let's see if maybe they made the right choice for somebody who's going to hopefully help them in a year or two. Or is there any world in which anybody who's going to be participating in this league could be somebody who's going to be somebody we're talking about during the season next season? And who do you think of all those people might be? Like whether it be Keita or Walsh or Sharman, any of these guys, someone we're going to be talking about during the year as well?
I don't know, man. They're so deep that it's just hard to see anyone really cracking the rotation. I think that these dudes are going to be very good in the G League and contend for a G League title. That's what I think. Keita played some, this year. Maybe we could see some Jordan Walsh, but I think in general, I'm excited to see Baylor Shireman's game and what he can bring.
Keita is the guy who should probably dominate so much that he's sitting after a game or two, right?
This hurts you, Bobby, right?
JD?
No. Keita.
Yeah.
Is this the year Keita supplants Luke in that 9?
Well, he's in a good situation this summer because last summer he was hurt, right? Coming in, or right after the preseason, he hurt that foot again. But in July,
he was
a year ago,
he
broke his foot last summer, so he didn't have a summer going into the year, and that hurt him. He aggravated again going into the year, so he really entered that first month of the season pretty hobbled. And now this year, you're actually going to have some minutes there, as Khari mentioned, with Porzingis out, and maybe there's some injuries to other guys or rest needed in that front court. Like if you're having a night in the back-to-backs early where Horford's out and it's Kornet, Tillman, and Keita, Keita's probably going to play in a matchup where Kornet's not a good fit because Kornet's so matchup dependent there. So he's definitely a guy you look at here. They brought him back on a 3-year deal like they did Hauser a couple of years ago. He was so dominant in the G League. You always talk about those 4A players, John. He's not a G League guy. He should not be a Summer League guy. He's probably going to average a double-double here in Summer League.
Keita shouldn't be out there. It's going to be you're right. I think
but is he ready to contribute at the NBA level is what you always ask, even for guys who dominate to that degree. So I like his presence out there because it's going to free up other guys, right? Shireman should get some open shots off him. Walsh, you want him knocking down shots on the perimeter, and all of these other guys should benefit by his presence out there. The guy I'll actually throw into the mix here is Watson, who again, older, a little bit more polished maybe in terms of his defensive skills at the very least. And they just keep saying, like McClay said it and Brad said it right after they drafted him, if he just fires away from 3 and is confident from out there, you might have something here, even though he was that deep second round pick, because the defense is so good, John. I know we didn't talk about him, but in Vecini's draft guide, he said this is the only guy in this class who can legitimately say he can guard 1 through 5. And, obviously KOC made the Horford comparison in that role. So that excites me. Like, does he come out there and hit 38% from 3 because he finally has the green light? That would be big. Because, again, there's a front court opening here. There's room for minutes with Porzingis out.
Again, it's easier said than done at the NBA level. If you can defend your position or defend multiple positions and knock down open shots, there is a spot for you, regardless of where you were drafted and your experience level. That's all it takes. And again, that's what you were hoping you would have with Jordan Walsh. And you're still hoping, his ability to defend. He's got a great wingspan. He
Walsh still feels just a little young,
but he's just a little green, right? Yeah. Feels it. Little young, still needs a little more meat on his bones, but you definitely feel that he's got the athleticism to be able to stay there. But I still wonder whether he's off. And that's what's interesting about drafting those older guys is the expectation when you draft at the end of the draft, you're always faced with that kind of question or dilemma. Do I take the draft and stash Euro, at 18 years old and hope that, they come back in a couple of years and they turn into something? And I'm not going to, the Yabuselis and the Yamadars and this and that. I mean, granted, a couple of those are second rounders, but Yabu was a friggin' number 16 overall pick or whatever the hell he was. He was supposed to be French Draymond Green, but that didn't turn out. But you get the draft and stash or the guys with the unlimited potential who you don't know if they can play a lick, but the ceiling is high, or old guys who are supposed to be able to come in now-ish. You're not supposed to keep 24-year-old dudes on ice for 3 years and then see if they can play at 27, 28. The idea is you're a man. Get out there and show me what you can do.
Yeah, and on Shireman, I've asked around a little bit on that, and I think there is a little bit of thinking that on injury night, on a rest night, he could play a little bit for this team. He's ready to go, and obviously O'Shea and Svi are still sitting there in free agency in that kind of role. The passing with him is exciting. Like, you see him on the tape and he's really dishing the ball around, and that's a secondary skill that even Hauser doesn't really have. So this was definitely an exciting pick for them. This is a guy who I think could come out and really wow in Summer League. I think he was still a surprise. He was there at 30, and he was talking about that at practice the other day. It was like, I thought I was probably a little higher than where I went there, but he expected to go on the first day, and he ended up being the last pick of the first day. Is there any little bit of slight he carries in the Summer League, and does he really try to go off that? I think this is a guy that could be in that mix for like a Summer League MVP. I think he's going to be that just explosive here. Like Khari said, this is a guy who has the green light to shoot threes. He has that kind of shooting ability. He'll be taking 9, 10, 11, 12 a game in this Summer League from deep. So, and he's got range too, which is something you can't say about all the guys coming out of the draft. So he's definitely someone to watch as well. It probably is a little early to say he'll be playing for this kind of team, just because of Hauser's presence, and Pritchard's still a huge factor here off this bench. But can he be Svi? Can he be Brissett? Like, he's a really good rebounder, John, 9 a game. That might be something he has to do if those guys walk.
Yeah.
This might be like, the 15th spot on this team might just be luxury tax saving.
I think luxury tax saving / let's see what kind of is left at the end of the day. And if somebody wants to take the Gallo deal to come here or less, whatever they can afford because they want to latch onto a championship team, or you leave it open and you get somebody, right before the season starts, maybe. Yeah, or it might be luxury tax again. We'll know. We didn't talk about the ownership situation at all because we've been talking about it a great deal. But Khari, I'll give you a shot at that if there's anything you wanted to add to the situation with the Celtics, selling the team. It's the other hot story of the offseason, which again is going to be a hot story of just ongoing up until that first 51%, stake goes.
I mean, sure. I mean, it was just shocking, right? I think Tatum said that, like, you win that title, you get banner 18. You're thinking Wick and them are in it for the long haul. And just to hear that the family is selling the shares and it's some kind of estate planning thing. I'm like, oh, that's lame. But like, you know, I guess I can't tell billionaires to do with their money. And it was also, you know, some of the Globes reporting was interesting on that with the Shaughnessy column. Just talking
Shaughnessy
about
brought it.
Yeah, he brought the heat, talking about how, you know,
big
Wick
one.
doesn't own as much of the team as you think he does.
Not as much.
Yeah.
Very, very little.
Yeah.
Teeny little bit.
So I thought that was interesting.
That was a great report. Yeah, hats off to Scoop Shaughnessy for dropping that one. But yeah, very interesting to see what goes on here with that 51%. A lot of people have theories that 51% just goes to the 49% plus 2, and there's some continuity. That would be the easiest thing for everyone involved. And if they said it's going to be resolved fairly soon, maybe we do have a resolution to it. As always, we'll let you guys know here that on the Garden Report, anytime there's breaking news, we'll try to jump on as quickly as possible. If you subscribe both to Celtics All Access and our regular CLNS Media YouTube channel, turn on your notifications. You'll be notified every time we go live or a new video drops. You can also follow us on Twitter for those types of things. And who knows, if Khari didn't have a miserable time this time, we can maybe have him back and hear some of his thoughts before he converts completely to a Patriots reporter in a couple of weeks.
Nah, this is fun, man. Have me back anytime. Let's go.
All right, last question I'll ask you, Khari. So we talk about team selections and how subjective it is. I want you to pick your 5 all-stars for the Celtics media, Celtics beat media pickup basketball team. I want you to come up with your starting 5.
All right.
There.
Don't be afraid to pick yourself.
I'm putting Jay King number 1 overall. I think Jay King is nice with it. Like he can play for real. You know, I'll put let's see, I'll go with Corrales. Corrales can ball. We need a big for sure. So put Corrales at the 5, you know. I think Noah's underrated. I think she got some J's, you know. You know who's actually surprisingly Jay King.
Jay is 1. Yeah, Jay is 1.
He's 1 for
Jay,
sure.
John, Noah.
Yep. You know who's surprising as a shooter? Justin Turpin can really shoot.
They tell me.
He can shoot it. He was out here running around trying to call himself Sam Hauser. Like that was.
I was surprised. I was very surprised.
Yeah. And then let's see who else as a 5. I don't know, man. Who would you give the 5th spot to, Bobby?
You want to give it to yourself, don't you?
I mean, I can play a little bit, but I'm also, you know, I had some injuries. I had a little calf thing like Kristaps did at the end of the playoffs.
He played through it though in Indy.
Time.
Yeah, he fought through. Let's give the point guard spot to our guy, Joe Sway.
Oh,
I thought Joe Sway looked good with the ball in his hands.
Richie can play too, actually.
Rich, yeah. No, that's a good point.
Richie can play.
Rich has the handles and the floater, so I want him at the point of attack. So yeah, let's go. Rich.
Youth is served with Richie and Noah. Yeah.
Rich, Noah, Justin, Corrales, and who's Jay. Yeah.
And Jay. All right, give me a critique, Bobby.
So Bobby just Jaylen Brown, Joe Sway right there. He just sideswiped his own guy.
Hey, Rich is our guy too.
I know. He just did.
That's what it is. That's exactly what he is.
What if Bobby do a tantrum right now and he said that team is bullshit?
I don't think Joe Sway would have a problem with picking Rich. Rich really showed out there.
I remember when we were in the early Garden days and going down and shooting around a little bit. Joe Sway's got a little twitch. I
like his handle. I like his passing.
Sure.
Yeah. But Rich can really shoot. Rich has a great floater, so we're gonna give it to him. And I'll have to keep working.
Yeah. All right. So that's what we got. We'll try to. I've talked about trying to. I'd love to. We got something cooking. I'll tell everybody later. But we hopefully there'll be some more games in the future. coming up here. But yeah, once again, thanks to Khari Thompson, Boston.com. You want to follow him on Twitter and all of his written stuff covering all Boston sports comprehensively. And as we said, he's going to be switching over from a lot of Celtics coverage to a lot of Patriots coverage, which is going to be super hot very soon. And we're talking about camp is now 13 days away. It's less than 2 weeks until we're out there in Foxborough. Obviously, our guys,
Really?
Taylor Kyle's. Yeah, man, it's Taylor Kyle's, Mike Cadlick. I might even send Bobby. I've sent Bobby on occasion before. Our cup runneth over, though. We've got a lot of people out there, and we'll be out there en masse, CLNS Media. So follow us over at Patriots Press Pass as well. But make sure you keep up with Khari Thompson, who will be reporting on all sports all the time, particularly the Patriots. It's going to be a really interesting and fun camp for them. And before you know it, we're back with the Celtics, and it just all starts over again, which is great. It's the best thing about it. It's the best thing about working in this business and in this town. So thank you guys for joining us here on a random Thursday night here on the Garden Report. As we said, breaking news will pop back up here. Otherwise, we may call it quits for the week. But Bobby and I are going to be doing some stuff in and around Summer League games, which the first one's in a couple of days. So, Bobby, what time's that Saturday game?
6:30 Eastern.
All right, we'll do a post-game Garden Report after that game. Once Bobby gets his stuff done, it might not happen right after the final whistle because Bobby's got to do some gathering, but we will recap that game. So look for notifications on that, but we'll bring you something on Saturday night following
Celtics
the
Heat, baby.
First Summer League game. Yeah. Very good. Thank you guys again for watching. It's always a pleasure having you guys here in the chat, contributing to the conversation, and we will see you guys as soon as I can find my outro next time. Bye.
Wait, Amit's got an outro for us, I think.
No, he doesn't.
He said he was going to work on an outro.
He had a phenomenal game.
Phenomenal game.
Forfeit's out. I think it's an option. That did not sound like a chair.
It was a freaking chair. It does sound like a chair.